In 2018, we were introduced to the new installment of zombies with Call of Duty Black Ops 4. The hype was intense, as Black Ops 3 had captured the hearts of many within the zombies community, both gameplay and story-wise. But with the release of the game, many people felt less than satisfied with it. Fans felt disappointed with the Aether story maps and the way that storyline ended, and many people didn't feel too strongly enough towards the brand new Chaos storyline. I was a little nervous playing the game as I heard bad things about it, but honestly, I enjoy it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not my favorite Zombies installment. I still have never gotten past round 8 on Blood of the Dead, and I haven't even attempted Alpha Omega or Tactor Toten, but I'm a storyline kind of person as well as a gameplay person, so I found myself becoming increasingly intrigued with our Chaos crew, and this is my pitch to bring back those guys. Will this probably change the way Treyarch and Activision are putting out games? No, but I have ADHD, free time, and access to an editing and recording software. So here's why I think the Chaos storyline was robbed of its potential and why I personally think they should return. Before I get into the Chaos story, I want to talk about the changes in BO4, as they clearly had an effect on how people perceived the game. There were quite a few things people weren't entirely happy about, first and foremost being the brand new perk system. When you think of the Perk-a-Colas, I'm sure you probably think of Speed Cola or Juggernog, right? Pretty iconic staples of the game. Well, fuck you, because those perks were stripped from the game. Instead, you spawn in with your health already capped at 200, Juggernog essentially being given to you. Speed Cola? Well, let's look at how this new perk system works. When getting ready to load into a new game, you have the option to select your perks based on whichever cast of characters you're playing. You choose 4 perks, each being in a respective machine around the map, and then you are stuck with those 4 perks for the rest of the game. Your 4th perk acts as a modifier, and when you have all 4 of your perks, the modifier is activated. Although it differs between each perk, each one will allow your reload speed to increase, essentially giving you another built-in perk. Speed Cola. I want to bring up a point Tim Hansen made in his Black Ops 4 analysis video, which is that this idea was introduced in order to sort of eliminate crutch perks, and give players more of a chance to customize their perk loadout. Only problem is, most people end up choosing the same 4 perks in their loadout anyway, which completely defeats the purpose of the new system. As well as the fact you can't even choose a different set of perks without resetting your whole game. It's good on paper, sure, but not good in practice. At launch, 4 maps were available. 4 was a little strange, considering every game before this usually had 1 or 2 maps at launch, and the rest were DLC. We had Voyage of Despair and 9, both Chaos maps, and Blood of the Dead and Classified, both Aether story maps. The idea of having 2 different storylines together in one game is not a bad idea in the slightest, but I feel like it wasn't the best idea for this game in particular. Like, let's be real, most people were excited about the Aether storyline, as those are the characters we've been playing with since the game mode was launched. And unfortunately, it seems as though Chaos was overshadowed and didn't get a chance to shine. I'm going to talk about the maps in chronological storyline order rather than release order to make this easier to understand. So the storyline takes place in the 1910s. We start with the map Dead of the Night. Alistair Rhodes is hosting a party, but it turns out he gets kidnapped in his own house by his butler. Butler guy is a part of this spooky cult called the Order, which Alistair dug his nose a little too deep into and started figuring stuff out about these masked dudes they'd rather not have known by others. They're after this artifact called the Sentinel Artifact, which basically has the power to release prima materia, which I think is like the universe's element 115, I don't know. But anyway, so it can basically just cause all this mess to happen. And Butler Guy decides to start the apocalypse in this mansion, and everyone besides himself and 3 others are infected due to the fact they were standing in a productive circle.
Lucifer's ball sack was that?
After the Easter egg, Butler Guy kills the other 3. Before he can continue his evil Butler plans, Scarlet Rhodes, Alistair's daughter, comes in and shoots him. See, Alistair had been aware he was probably going to have the Order on his tail, so he had reached out to his daughter and told her what to do if this happens. But Scarlet and her father haven't seen each other in like 13 years? I don't know. Anyway, Butler Guy dies before Scarlet can get answers out of him, and she turns to the letter her father wrote her about the 3 people he trusts to help her stop the Order. Chemist Stanton Shaw, spy Diego Nicali, and gangster Bruno Delacroix. I probably pronounced that wrong. Sorry. She meets with all of them, and their next stop is the Titanic, where they attempt to steal the Sentinel artifact from the Order. But another evil bald guy appears and steals the artifact from Scarlet. The four end up cornering him, and he decides that now would be a wonderful time to start the apocalypse. In doing so, Scarlet punches him in the face and knocks him out of the protective circle, leaving our four heroes trapped on a zombie-infected ship, fighting for their lives and for that sweet, sweet achievement and cutscene. They end up reversing everything and see a vision of a gateway, which is their next destination. The ship sinks and the four escape, while Shaw informs them that he's seen the gateway before in a book, and it's located in Greece, specifically Delphi. As the camera pans away, we see a familiar red mark on Bruno's head, which reveals to us that he's a member of the Order. I feel like now would be a good time to pause for a second and dive into these characters a little bit before moving on. Some of the information about them, similar to the transit crew and how they helped Richtofen get the blood vials and the crenorium, are only mentioned in the comics. I'm gonna try and sum it up swiftly. So in issue number 1, it starts off with Scarlet talking about her father and how while she was growing up, her father used to tell her stories about all the magic stuff and the Order stuff and how she thought they were just stories. And then clearly they're not. So then it cuts to Morocco in September 1910, where we meet Bruno, and he's a part of a legion in France. I'm assuming this is some kind of like gangster thing since Bruno is a gangster, and he's approached by Alistair. Alistair tells Bruno that some former associates of his have an object that Alistair desires, the Scepter of Ra, and asks him for his assistance. They end up tracking down the people with the scepter, and a fight ensues. After some cool action stuff, Bruno is shot dead whilst killing a man. However, with Alistair now in possession of the scepter, he uses it to revive Bruno and bring him back to life. Unbeknownst to the two, using the scepter to bring somebody back to life is basically like giving the Order a one-way ticket into your brain, which explains the cutscene at the end of Voyage of the Damned. Or Voyage of Despair, this isn't Doctor Who! In issue number 2, we're introduced to Stanton Shaw a little bit more. I'm gonna be honest, I love Shaw. He's probably my favorite character of that crew. He yaps a bit too much when you play as him for my liking, but that goofy mad scientist trope constantly has a chokehold on me. Anyway, so in this issue, we're in Cambodia, where Alistair and Shaw are talking. We find out Shaw has dedicated himself to his work of chemistry to the point of neglecting his own family, and is also apparently on the run. They're interrupted when Cambodian police arrive and try to capture and kill Shaw, as we find out Shaw had given them a gas formula to use, but it ended up backfiring and killing a bunch of their men. Alistair diffuses the situation by telling them that they can redeem themselves to a higher command, but he needs Shaw alive. Alistair leads Shaw and the police to a temple, where Shaw is able to decipher the codes on the wall. They enter a room and find prima materia, which moves forward and turns the police into zombies. Alistair and Shaw take off trying to fend off the zombies. While Alistair keeps them away by shooting at them, Shaw creates a chemical composure that blows up the tunnel. The two escape safely, and Alistair leaves Shaw and tells him he'll need him soon. In the 3rd issue, we focus more on Diego. It opens with Diego being, well, Diego, and seducing a woman. But her husband busts in, and Bro books it out a window. He ends up meeting with Alistair in a bar, and quick pause. So, remember in Voyage of Despair, the necklace evil bald guy number 2 stole from Scarlet, and how he used it to start the apocalypse with the Sentinel artifact? Well, that's Diego's. It's a family heirloom of his. Alistair gives him a vague explanation as to why he needs it, and Diego is like, dude, this is a family heirloom. You can't have it. And then some dudes bust in and are like, actually, it's ours. And a fight breaks out. Diego is absolutely beating the shit out of these dudes, and then he gets clocked in the face. And Alistair's almost killed, till Diego's like, y'all thought it was over, and absolutely destroys them. Once again. The issue ends with Diego loaning his medallion to Alistair, telling him that because those men wanted it, it meant that there was some truth to what Alistair was saying. And in the final issue, we take a look at Scarlet. Her and her dad seem to have had a pretty good relationship when she was a child, but she started to stop believing in the magic he would tell her about. It all came to a halt when, after a trip to a museum, Alistair is arrested for trying to steal an artifact, and Scarlet is sent to live at a boarding school at age 12. At one point, she apparently lived with Shaw for a bit, since he was like a family friend of Alistair's, but I could only find that confirmed from the wiki. But anyway, she basically moved on and decided to make her own. But 15 years after not speaking, Alistair writes to Scarlet about her possibility of being a target to the Order and what to do if he is kidnapped by them. Scarlet gets this letter, and as much as she doesn't want to, she goes to his mansion to speak with him, as he still is her father. At the mansion, we see Alistair ready to shoot somebody in his house when his butler appears out of nowhere. Alistair, relieved at it just being his butler, ends up getting clocked over the head once he turns away. This is how he ended up getting kidnapped in Dead the Night. Anyway, Scarlet arrives at the mansion where evil butler guy refuses to let her in, claiming she needs to have an invitation to the party Alistair was hosting later that night. After being refused entry, the Order ends up targeting her in the woods. She kills them, and that's sort of right before the ending cutscene of Dead of the Night, like when that takes place. And then it ends with Scarlet meeting up with the rest of the crew, ready to board the Titanic and continue the adventure. I gotta say, I think the comics are a nice touch for some prequel-esque content. Like I said, I'm a storyline kind of person as well as a gameplay type of person, so I like it. After that, back in the game, the crew goes to find Delphi, but they meet with this oracle who tells them to inhale the smoke stuff in order to get them through the gate to Delphi. And they end up transported to an ancient Roman arena, and they're not like actually there though, it's a hallucination.
Silly me, I'm on drugs.
So this map is pretty fun, and I do enjoy it. After the Easter egg, the cutscene shows Scarlet and the others held up by members of the Order after they were able to find the code to getting to Delphi. Scarlet is like, hey, what the fuck, y'all can't do that, and the guy is like, oh, bet? And then beheads them. And they wake up, and Scarlet is immediately back on business and opens the door, revealing them to Delphi. The Oracle tells them that she's trapped in the Temple of Apollo and that she can't hold the zombies back for much longer. She passes out, and the zombies attack our players. With our final map, we begin Ancient Evil. At some point, Bruno and Shaw are looking at different ruins when the Order influences Bruno and forces him to kill Shaw, and then Shaw is revived with the Scepter of Ra, and like Bruno, becomes a secret member of the Order. After the Easter egg is complete, the Oracle shows them where Scarlet's father is hidden. Diego, Shaw, and Bruno run down to find him while Scarlet attempts to free the Oracle. Once freed, the Oracle reveals that she is actually Medusa, and at the same time, the other three find Alistair, turned to stone where he was being held, along with a few other members of the Order. Diego runs upstairs to try and help Scarlet as he figured out the Oracle is actually Medusa. He's too late though, as Medusa kisses Scarlet and like gets memories of the current world from Scarlet or something. Still a little lost on that, but it's always nice to see casual lesbians. Anyway, Scarlet passes out and Diego grabs her, running and hiding from Medusa so she doesn't turn him into stone. She puts on one of the Order masks and sees a vision in the flame, and proclaiming that the world is going to be hers. And that's where we left off. Cold War focused on the Dark Aether story, which revolves around an older Samantha Maxos trying to save the world and Richtofen being back again because he's always fucking there. But in all seriousness, I'm a bit disappointed that we didn't get an actual solid ending to the Chaos storyline. And with BO6 confirmed to be focusing on the Dark Aether story again, it seems as though a gigantic opportunity was brushed under the rug. Don't get me wrong, I love the Aether storyline. I mean, these are the characters every zombie player remembers playing with. They've become real fleshed out characters and a major part of everybody in the community's heart. And, like, this isn't me saying that, oh, these characters suck. They don't. I have spent hours dissecting Richtofen's character. I fucking love Nolan North. That's not relevant, I just wanted to say that. Anyway, my thing is, though, it's almost been 20 years since World at War came out. As much as I love to see Richtofen and co going, there's only so much you can pull out of them for story. To me, I think BO4 was supposed to focus on the Chaos storyline and be sort of a transition to a new set of characters to follow. It would make sense considering the only actual cutscenes that aren't animatic style are all of the Chaos plus Blood of the Dead and Classified, which are just 2 remasters of previous maps. So I can only assume plans were changed and things were scrapped during the production of the game itself. But squashing a new story into a game with the continuation of an old one that people are more familiar with and love, they're more than likely to choose the continuation of the old one. I think the characters themselves had a lot of lost potential. It's a little frustrating to see Scarlet's character dwindle down to another daddy issues trope, but I can't exactly expect the Call of Duty fandom to enjoy powerful protagonists that happen to have breasts. Anyway, I really do think we could have had more with this crew. Scarlet could have had the opportunity to be a very strong protagonist who, despite having an estranged relationship with her father, still wanted to save him and ended up roped into the mess that is the Chaos story. My ass was genuinely convinced we get some kind of crossover with the Chaos and Dark Aether crew, considering in some radio from one of the games, I can't remember, Alistair is mentioned by name, and that clip from the BO6 trailer had me convinced. But there's just so much that they can do. There's so many unanswered questions. What happened after Medusa left? What's gonna happen with Shaw and Bruno? Is Alistair gone, or can he be unfrozen? Were the Order actually trying to prevent Medusa from being freed, or were they working with her? Also, what the fuck? I liked Shaw! That's Grandpa! Anyway, thanks for watching this mess of a video. I wouldn't really call it a video essay because it's honestly just me rambling. There is an entire just script in my notes that's just word vomit. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, maybe drop a like. I don't know. I'm not a YouTuber. Anyway, bye.